Varada Avinash Shambhu, Wari Pilgrimage, Challenging Feminism.
आप सभी को मेरा सादर प्रणाम. आई एम वेरी privileged to be here amongst the gathering of all scholarly and great people, and I'm feeling very privileged since yesterday. I'm getting to know a number of new themes. Of course, this theme looks little different than most of the themes that we have, but I think this is very relevant because the kind of discourse we have in our society, which is very polarized, which is very binary kind of an understanding. Of course, the moment, so again on issue of feminism, people are divided to poles. People consider themselves as radical feminists and then they take pride. The others consider being a feminist as an abuse. So I think in that context, this is my attempt to give some glimpse into how do we see gender binaries, or are there at all gender binaries when we talk about Maharashtrian pilgrimage, which is Wari, which goes to Pandharpur. This is a work in progress. This is part of my PhD that I'm pursuing from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. I teach at National Law University in Mumbai. So this is the outline of my presentation, the idea of popular feminism. So how do we perceive feminism today from also theoretical perspective? What is essentialism and what is feminist essentialism? That's the second point. Implications of feminist essentialism. Then I have a photo log. So instead of making any bold statements, I would simply see how we see women and their participation in this Wari pilgrimage in Maharashtra. And then we have some videos, which is the performance kind of aspect of this pilgrimage. And then some of the reflections that I have, which are much more open than the conclusive statements. So basically, what is the idea of popular feminism? So the present day feminism, uh, it's which is popular especially in India, and in fact, the history that we see of political thought, even social thought, that is something that unfortunately we keep taking pride referring to the West as our role model. So is the case with our understanding of feminism. So the feminist movement, which took a very strong shape in 1970s and 80s in India, was something which invariably was influenced by the West. So that is the popular idea and popular understanding, but it is not just the liberal West, it is also the kind of radical Marxist West, which also influences Indian feminism. So there is this unique combination, and this is the term which we keep hearing often on the TV debates at night, at 9 o'clock, left liberal. So what is this left liberal? So the left, again, these are very broad terms in which I'm defining this. So the left liberal influences on feminist theory, left, the ideology which has been driven by the idea of conflict, the Marxist idea of conflict, and the liberal, which is centered around atomistic individuals. So there isn't much of connection in liberal idea and in liberal philosophy. It is the atomistic individual which is self-sufficient. So that's the notion of individuals, and that is what left liberal influence on feminism is. And what is the implication of this kind of an idea of, on the one hand, you have conflict-driven notions of society, and on the other hand, you have atomistic individualism. This invariably leads to creation of binaries, which are essentialist. But the present day feminist discourse also talks about intersectionality. So it doesn't really stop at the binary, but also starts looking at not the homogeneous construct of the binary, but at the same time, what are the nuances within one particular cluster, and the implication of that, as we see, black feminism, Dalit feminism, burqa feminism, and so on. So this is including LGBT community, etc. So this is the implication, and this is the present day context. So then the fundamental question that I would like to highlight, what is essentialism? And then what is feminist essentialism? Things have essential properties, so this is the idea of essentialism. Things have essential properties, and without these essential properties, make them what they are. And they are essence of being. So this is essence or essentialism that defines any being, that defines anything. The feminist, in the feminist context, there are certain properties that are essential to women, which a woman must necessarily possess to be a woman, if at all. So that's feminist essentialism. The life experiences of all women are same, and their social realities are of oppression and exploitation by men within the patriarchal context. So this is the present day idea of feminism is, and this is what I define as feminist essentialism, which precisely is my task to deconstruct, which precisely is my task to challenge this notion of feminist essentialism. So anti-essentialist feminists bring in, so there are a number of feminists today, especially in the present day context, who want to deconstruct this feminist essentialism, but there is also a lacuna there, and I'm trying to point that out here. Anti-essentialist feminists bring in an element of diversity. As I spoke of intersectionality, they do bring in element of diversity of experiences, but they limit themselves merely at the bodily expressions or merely at the bodily experiences. So this is something, and this typically suits within the Western materialist understanding of being. So we construct, we look at the externalities of our being and do not look into the inward ideas or in a way, very Indian kind of notion of being or self. So this is the problem that I have with the Western anti-essentialist feminists as well. So what are the implications of this kind of feminist essentialism? This is a conflict-centric perception of society, and what it does, it divides society. Again, I'm talking from gender perspective. We can adopt multiple categories. If it is the category of class, it would be bourgeois proletariat. If it is category of caste, it would be Brahmin, non-Brahmin. So these are the conflict binaries. In case of gender, it is the binary of man and woman, male and female. So I'm not going into sex and gender because all of us know about those who study feminist theory. We pretty much know about this distinction. But in gender context, it is the man who oppresses the woman. That's the essentialism that feminism has. So gender as a category of exploitation, weak, exploited, oppressed women, and essentially it has to be versus, essentially it has to be against strong, exploitative, oppressor men. So that's the gender binary, that's the construct which has been created. The structures of the structures cooperate with each other to exploit the other. So there is also the broader idea, and this is what would lead to radical understanding of feminism, and wherein we have those notions that family needs to be deconstructed, the market needs to be deconstructed, the capitalism needs to be fought. So what is happening here? The gender, the class, the caste, all of it becomes a unison, all of it combines together, it becomes a cluster, and then there are structures of oppression. In case of class, the structure of market and capitalism is oppressive. In case of gender, it is the family as a structure which is operative and which is oppressive. So what happens essentially, the belief is that all these structures of patriarchy, market and state are functioning together, and if you want to come out of this oppression as a woman, this is what leads to radical feminism. If you want to come out of this oppression by men, you need to overthrow this. So this is the notion which gets internalized as you keep on moving towards the feminist approach. The way to bring in change, to overthrow the structures, breaking down of family institution and individual notions of rights. And this is what I talk about left liberal feminism. On the one hand, you want to deconstruct the structures, and on the other hand, you want to claim rights to each individual. So it is not the rights of, so it is not a classical Marxist interpretation as well, that you want to emancipate the class itself, but it is, so on the one hand, you want to deconstruct the structure. On the other hand, you want to deconstruct those for the purposes of individual rights. And then we, of course, know about the present debate on right to privacy. So this is about what are the implications. Now let's come to the much more, what is my domain of work, what is my domain of study. So I would, from here, I would talk about Wari pilgrimage. So this is the Google map of Wari, and so there are multiple palanquins which start from different parts of Maharashtra, Alandi, Dehu, Paitan. So there are a number of places from where the pilgrimage starts. This pilgrimage, the most important and popular pilgrimage or popular procession is of Gyaneshwar Maharaj, which starts from Alandi and reaches Pandharpur. On an average, it's 18 days of pilgrimage, so that's roughly 18 days and around 250 kilometers. So as the Wari pilgrimage is also known as Palki Sohla or Pandharpur Wari, it occurs 4 times a year, Chaitra, Ashadha, Kartika, Magha. Most popular and populous in the month, the most popular and populous pilgrimage is in the month of, sorry, it's not Chaitra, it's Ashadha, June and July, which is around June and July. This is the largest pilgrimage gathering in Maharashtra. So I'll skip this because all of us know about this. So about gender perspective, there are number in Warkari tradition, and Wari is invariably associated with the Bhakti sect or the Bhagavad Panth, which is known as Warkari sect in Maharashtra. So what is the position of women in Warkari sect? So in the Warkari sect, it does not discriminate on the basis of caste, class, age, gender. There are a number of women saints belonging to varied social backgrounds. So these are some of the examples of who these are. A point here to be noted, they are not merely recognized as saints, but they can also assume the positions of gurus. So they can also have disciples. So this is and this is something which does not happen later, the way it started happening maybe in Buddhism, but it starts from the inception of Warkari sect itself. And of course, there was a legacy of Mahanubhava Pantha, which was a little before Warkari sect. So as I said, I'm not going to, mere than the commentary, I will be giving a photolog, which would be loud enough to say whether that binary construct of feminist essentialism operates in these kind of processions. So this is a woman, and this is a typical picture of a woman who is walking in a Wari pilgrimage. Most commonly found picture of a woman. So here, there is something called Ringan, wherein 2 horses run, and so those horses are considered as God's horses, and these are the women who are trying to touch the ground after the Ringan or after this procession has taken place. So this land has become now sacred land. Now this is something which, so please look at these expressions. So this is the deconstruction of feminist essentialism. So look at the position. So look at the position of that woman, and of course this is a form of seva. So a man who is giving that seva, he is a very trained masseuse, and then there are Ayurvedic oils, and because pilgrims walk for so long, they of course get tired, and this is the form of seva which has been provided. And just look at how the body image that we have as urban woman mind, it starts getting deconstructed in this kind of a photo. Now here is another photo. There is this woman doctor who is providing service to this man who has got injured while walking. So these are 2 images. On one hand, a seva has been provided by a man to an old age woman, and who supposedly is uneducated, poor, oppressed, doesn't have agency because of the oppressive structures, getting massaged without body shaming under any circumstance. And here is a woman who is providing seva, who is modern educated doctor and providing seva to a so-called uneducated, illiterate Warkari man. So so I'll just go through some images. So this is something which happened at Chandrabhaga at the culmination of pilgrimage. So another is, so how the values transform from one generation to another generation. Mother-daughter duo, walking, both are carrying tulsi plant on their head. This is the modern image of strong woman. So what you get to see is, so she's leading this entire security arrangement, and again she's a woman. So these are NSS girls, and look at, so very often in our commonsensical understanding we believe that women fight with each other. So औरत ही औरत का सबसे बड़ा शत्रु है, दुश्मन है. So this is something, look at this, these are the adolescent girls, and they are supporting each other to make a pyramid. So this is what, so these are women, while I was clicking them, they were blessing me. So this is, and look at the expressions, I would again highlight that point. Here is an important message. So these are 2 women who are trying to dry their wives' saris after Chandrabhaga Snan on the day of Ekadashi. So this is another image. Look at these expressions. They have just taken Chandrabhaga Snan and they are coming out. So they are enjoying thoroughly. And this is a palaki. So the image that you can see at the back is this palanquin is of Muktabai, who was Ganeshwar's younger sister, and she of course was sent, and also guru of Changdev, Saint Changdev. And look at that image, the photo image, and look at that small little girl who is sitting there at the palki. So these are some videos, if at all I can be permitted. This won't take much time, so I would just like to so this is one. This is called Gathoda. So again, I would highlight the expressions there. This is, and look at this. This is called Komda. Oh my God. And look at the way they meet at the end of this. So this is one, and this is the last one, which is a very popular Fugdi. So of course there are a number of these, and these all are from, so all the photos are clicked by me during my field work this July, and of course the videos are also made by me. So how do we understand this in the context? So these are some reflections that I have, and these are last 2 slides. So these are the reflections that I have in the context of feminist essentialism. So the gender binaries that are constructed by the feminist essentialism are questionable. It is not a matter of kind, but of degree, which is leading to fluidity. And now queer theory very well recognizes this, but we have this in our living traditions enacted out there, maybe without theorization. The binary of the female oppressed and the male oppressor is problematic. Women as are conscious agents, and they very well understand where to exercise their agency and not. So let's not assume that they are agency-less. Bhakti, at least during the Wari, during the procession itself, transcends beyond the body imagery. So this is very important, the image that I showed, that is very well documented. And everyone in the Warkari sect is considered as Mauli. So in Marathi, Mauli means mother. And who is Mauli? Who is considered as Mauli? The deity Vitthal is called Mauli, Vithoba Mauli, Panduranga Mauli, or the saints of the sect, Jnanoba Mauli, Tukoba Mauli, all are considered as Mauli, irrespective of gender. So Muktai is also Mauli, and Jnanoba is also Mauli. The devotees and the pilgrims are Mauli, so whoever walks on the path is Mauli, and whoever you come in touch with, whoever you come in contact with, they all are Mauli. So I haven't included many of the things here. Say, for example, touching each other's feet, irrespective of gender, caste, religion, language, age, all of it is part of this tradition. But does this mean there is everything hunky-dory and it's a glorious picture? Of course not. So these are the limitations. Does this beyond binary sense or beyond body sense, does this get translated into our day-to-day affairs once the pilgrims are back? There is a big, and as a researcher, as a student, I have this problem that I may end up imposing the Western categories of liberty, equality, justice, democracy on our indigenous, more than indigenous Indic traditions that we have. And we need to have an alternative language. We can't call this as gender equality. So I'm in search of those alternative languages. Thank you so much for the patient hearing.
What a treasure of a paper. I'm not able to express in words how ecstatic I felt all through. Our Vision India Foundation friends, Shiv Shankar, and Shubham, all those probably were feeling that it is their group, yeah. And uh, we are going to have in our pipeline, we have another conference on Hindu feminism, Vedic feminism. This is going to be our guru for that, for the conference. Excellent presentation. And questions? Yeah,
I
please.
just wanted to say one thing here. You talked about alternative language. I am very happy that you used the word pantha and not cult. I think that's a beginning you have made. Hopefully, you will be able to carry it in your PhD thesis so that the language is changed forever.
Thank you, ma'am.
Fascinating pictures and videos. And let me tell you, this is not unique to this place. All across length and breadth of this country, I come from Rajasthan. I'm going to present tomorrow in something similar to this. You can see anywhere, everywhere, similar things. There's no, and this is there for thousands of years. So kudos to you. Secondly, I most appreciate part is your limitation. That last slide you have read. Ma'am had just suggested something. Just in that, just I am adding a bit to that. See, if you look at our Sanatan culture, the family institution, or even for entire society, this is all driven by kartabya bodh. This is your not by your adhikar bodh so much. So when everybody is conscious of their kartabya bodh, the adhikar bodh of others is been already fulfilled and met. Of course, there are deviations. There will be deviations in practical life, but you have tools and methods to keep on correcting them. Keep people reminding of their swadharma, how they don't deviate too much from their path. So obviously nothing is perfect, but at the same time I think those kind of vocabulary can be added. Thank you.
Thank you.
That when I say but, it is not, I'm not contradicting you. I think economic empowerment is very, very important. And also there you need to co-opt the so-called gender binaries, get protection written into the code and also implement it. That is an experience that I have had in my professional life, where you may have laws, you may have a progressive outlook, but how it is played out. And there is work of Brené Brown, for example, and others globally, which is very, very hopeful, and I hope we can make more connections in the conference that you that you just announced. Thank you.
So I just, because in my story I mentioned my grandmother, she was born in 1900s, right? So since her 20s, she loved going on yatras. She would have gone alone. If there was no company, it did not matter to her. When she decided to go on the yatra, she went. Her children were left with her elder sister or someone to take care of, and she went on yatras. And later on in her life, when responsibilities were far lesser, her yatras would be like at least 6 months of a year. She'd be in different parts of India. And suddenly we'll get a letter from somewhere, okay, send money to, and there'll be an address and this thing, and a money order would be sent over there so that she can continue her yatra, because she had decided from going from Champaner, she wanted to go to Badrikashram. From there, she wanted, okay, so this is the way. And this is a woman without a knowledge of the word feminism, but empowered
Very
completely.
quickly. Very quick. Yeah, we have 5 more papers.
Just like to share this experience. So there was this 80-year-old woman who was walking, and she was walking barefoot. So I asked her, Mauli, why are you walking barefoot? Then she said, I am a diabetic patient, so till Pune, the first halt, I was wearing chappal, but then because of diabetes, the feet got swollen. And after that, it got fitting it. So now I'm walking barefoot. Aren't you been asked by your family members? मतलब आपके husband बोलते नहीं हैं आपको कि आप जाओ मत. Then she said, why do I need permission? I don't need any permission. No one is above me. If I wish, I go. So this is this 80-year-old villager who is so-called illiterate. So this is what made me think that I, as a university teacher and one who is learned in JNU, because that also creates a lot of hype. So I went there to teach feminism. Maybe, of course, that wasn't the preaching idea that I had, but this is something, it's not, you don't go there to preach. You go there to learn. That's the most essential aspect, I believe.
I just want to close it by saying that though you presented it as a research paper, this is a major storytelling we need at India level from a tourism perspective. They pick up 15 women and tell us that India is the most dangerous place for women, and I've been fighting it out in the open and saying, show me women who say that. You know, because I travel all alone all the time, and I know all the women who travel. I was just telling them that at Narmada Yatra, these women are just walking alone through 2,800 kilometers. So we need this storytelling to tell the world that we are perfectly safe. We've been traveling. Please come and travel. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Thank you very much.